Icarus here. Shooting demons with guns is great and all, but sometimes, just sometimes, it feels better to take care of business up close, personal, and occasionally with the aid of non-ballistic death-dealing implements. As luck would have it, there's a fair few mods out there for Doom that can transform your experience into precisely just that. So, if you fancy a walk on the more pugilistic, the more blunt force, the more slice and dice side of demon disposal, well, you've come to the right place. First up in this five-finger fist sandwich, we have GMOTA. Yes, it's an acronym, and it stands squarely for Going Medieval on the Asses. In that regard, its primary class will put you firmly in the shoes of one Lord Blazkowicz, and as you might imagine, he's got a preference for up-close and personal combat. Like whacking enemies with a sword? You like seeing them explode into their component pieces on death? Well, you're in for a good time with GMOTA. But it's not all about thwacking things with swords of various magical charges, it's also about fisting enemies in the face, about thwacking them with hammers, dousing them in the magical flames of something likely pilfered from Dracula's castle, and if all else fails, you can just yeet your sword at them. I mean, what's not to like? I mean, in all honesty, it's just a tremendously satisfying gameplay mod in its own right. It's pleasingly chunky in all the right ways. There's just enough impact on each hit to really convey the sense of impact, and I find it something that a lot of other mods sometimes skimp on. Sure, the end result may be the same, demon fall down dead, but one will feel demonstrably better to do than the other. You may have caught that I mentioned that Blazkowicz is the primary class of GMOTA, and that's because you can also pick up the Doomslayer class. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't fall into the same category of melee as Blazkowicz. This one's more for the ranged enthusiasts out there, but still very fun to play around with all the same. If you find yourself greatly enjoying GMOTA, know that there are additional classes in the works. GMOTA has honestly been worked on for years at this point, thanks to the slavish devotion of Combine Keegan, the author behind it. But yeah, fantasy arcade beat-em-up action, GMOTA got you covered. Next up, we have Doom Fighters, a mod by Eddie Pagaza that asks the question, what if Doomguy had played entirely too much Streets of Rage? The answer, of course, is a mod that transforms Doom into a third-person brawler. No weapons here, it's all about fists, kicks, and, if you can pull it off, the occasional special move. Let me tell you, it is just wonderfully satisfying, beating the ever-loving crap out of enemies. Doubly so in the right kind of environment. I found that this paired particularly well with a map by the name of City Assault. Some may recognize it as a map out of the Extermination Day Megawad, but yeah, demon-infested city streets just seem to fit like a glove. But you can put any map you like alongside this mod. It's entirely up to you. And trust me, you ain't lived until you've grappled a Kako and turned it into chunky salsa by flinging it at another enemy. It's just tremendously enjoyable to do. And yes, you can do that act with a variety of other enemy types. Unfortunately, no, you cannot do it to a cyber demon, you cannot do it to a spider mastermind, but you can chuck a mancubus. Not very far, but you can indeed chuck him. Heck, you can even liberate an additional buddy here to assist you in the beating up of demons. I mean, they're not particularly smart, but they're trying their best. All that said, there's not really much else to say about Doom Fighters at this point in time. It's been a little bit on ice for a few years since its last major update, but man, do I see potential. The amount of stuff you could layer on this core beat-em-up concept here. Eddie, all I'm gonna say is give the people what they crave. If, however, you're craving something a little different, maybe in the form of cleaving demons in twain with the Crucible, then guess what? Eddie strikes again. As clearly evidenced, this takes a lot of its inspiration from Devil May Cry. With canny usage of your primary and secondary attack, you can string together combos and just deal all manner of death to any demon unfortunate enough to get in your way. You do also have access to a small suite of weaponry with which to deal with certain enemies at range, but really, that's only going to form a very minor part of what you do during the course of this mod. Much like Devil May Cry, you can also build up a combo meter culminating in Triple S rank, particularly a fan of how it goes from sadistic, satanic to Slayer at Triple S, and yes, it is quite fun to try and maintain that for as long as possible. In a similar fashion to Doom Fighters, this one has been on ice for a few years, and per the ModDB page, there's been a few planned features and additional weapons. I can only hope that they get added at some point, because what's here as a foundation is very satisfying indeed. You can also tweak the camera, so if you're not a fan with the standard third person, you can go for a more Resident Evil 4 over-the-shoulder type affair, and personally, I found that worked quite well for me. But once again, Eddie seems to be scratching a very particular itch, and I would genuinely love to see this kind of stuff develop more. Next up, if you're tired of bells, whistles, gimmicks, and combos, well, Tiger Blood may be of interest to you, because this is probably the most stripped back and Spartan entry in this entire collection. Heck, the fact that it has a Hotline Miami combo meter at the top there is by virtue of the fact that I added it on. Coincidentally, both elements here actually created by the same author, that being Loss for Words. As you might imagine, this also melds hilariously well with Nash Gore, which provides those additional chunky gore effects that you're currently witnessing on screen. And genuinely, for the most part, all you really need to concern yourself with is making sure you accurately punch your enemies in the face. There is provision here for chucking a grenade, but that's only if you can find a grenade, and considering it's in the BFG slot, all I can say is good luck with that. Attempting to use the grenade slot without a grenade will instead crack your knuckles, which has the effect of just basically alerting every enemy on the level, something that you can also do by hitting the reload button. In terms of the most fancy Tiger Blood gets, if you manage to bag yourself a Berserk kit, that grants you the ability to pick up barrels and chuck them at your enemies. You know, I just can't help but enjoy just the refreshing bluntness of this mod. No muss, no fuss. Just wallop them in the face. Final entry in this sampling platter of slobber knockers is Dio. That's right, the hater-in-chief of the entire JoJo bloodline does indeed have his own Doom mod. And as you might imagine, has quite the interesting roster of abilities at his disposal. Naturally, fists are a given, but you can also send out Dio's stand to do a bit of ranged punching in your stead. Other ranged options are indeed available, such as throwing knives, an option which can be augmented to throw an entire fan of them, or if you're feeling a little bit more vindictive, you can just drop an entire road roller on them. Street signs are also available for additional thwacking, though I don't think Dio at this point has a provision for widescreen resolution, so you might have to endure a little bit of clipping on the sprite there. However, I know what you're all thinking. Can you use Zawarudo? Yes, you can. Here it is. Are you happy? Naturally, you can use it to plink as many knives as you like within the time limit in front of an enemy before turning them into a reverse porcupine. But hey, it's Dio. What else can I say? There's a few extra fun little bits and bobs in here that I'll leave for you to discover yourself. And if you're a JoJo fan, well, enjoy. And if not, enjoy your confusion. So there you go, 5 melee-based mods for Doom that allow you to just thoroughly wail on your enemies to your heart's content. Hopefully there's at least one or two in there that pique your interest, and undoubtedly yet more of those mods waiting to be uncovered. I'm sure many of you will be yelling at me in the comments about stuff that I didn't include, but you see, this is actually part of my maniacal plan, where I get you guys to yell at me about stuff that I've missed, and that means I've actually got stuff to make another video for later on down the line. See? Genius. Anyways, hope you've enjoyed the video. Feel free to like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and if you want to help support the channel, you can do far worse than join my Patreon. But until next time, this has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.